Hello there. You join me today in what is my underground quarantine bunker, and this is where I'll be uncovering all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond. It's my apartment. We're decorating at the minute.
I don't know, any brand of sealant should do the trick, I think, yeah. Hello again. So a lot has happened, hasn't it, since last we spoke? Tom Hanks has the coronavirus, and America has banned all inward air travel from every European nation, which got me thinking that maybe now would be a great time to provide a very handy guide on some of the medical terminological differences between our two nations. After all, I'm probably not alone in being from one of those countries and living in the other. And anyway, wherever you're from, it's probably going to be quite handy to know some of the lingo should you find yourself in hospital. And yes, I did say in hospital, dropping the. Why did I do that, you might ask? Well, for the same reason that you might do it on words like school and church. They're an institution, right? We're generalizing. It's fine. But in this video, I won't be generalizing. I'll be getting deep down into some very big specifics. Can specifics be of a certain size? I don't know. Either way, without further ado, let's take a look at 7 medical words that are different in Britain and America. That was a fake sneeze to execute a pun. I don't have coronavirus yet. In both countries, you do have a particular arm of the hospital that is devoted toward treating people in an emergency. So you might have had a motorcycle accident or got into a bad fall or had a terrible fight with somebody over the last bag of pasta. In Britain, this is known as A&E, which stands for Accident and Emergency, or if you're displaying a certain level of casualty, you might refer to it as Casualty. Not to be outdone, the United States also employs 2 different names for this. You might hear Emergency Department, or again, if you're being casual, just ER, which again stands for Emergency Room. And the way that these departments have been depicted on television really highlights the disparity between both countries' glamour. So ER was a US TV show starring international film star George Clooney, whereas Casualty is a UK TV show starring that guy who plays Charlie in Casualty. Now, of course, in both countries, casualty can mean somebody who was injured, wounded, or even killed in the act of battle. So, you know, Wilfred Owen, Michael Strank, and 18 packs of Angel Soft. And if you did get a pretty bad injury, the sort that could only be inflicted by getting a shopping cart to the back, then you might find yourself in one of these. Operating room, what's that all about? In Britain, we call them operating theatre, and theatre might conjure up images of, you know, a sort of veteran stage actor like Judi Dench doing all of the surgery, which, you know, I like Judi Dench, but if I'm having a liver transplant, I want somebody who went to med school and not, you know, RADA. But funnily enough, the word theatre in this sense does have connections to actual theatre, in the sense that in both countries in the 19th century, operating theatres were literally these sort of amphitheatres in which sort of med students watched the actual surgeons perform, you know, and I just hope it was matinee performances, because as a former student myself, all I could be thinking about was happy hour. And I don't entirely talk about these things as if they are a thing of the past. Indeed, here in the United States, in Philadelphia and Boston, there still exist actual operating theatres where really sadistic people sit in and watch people cut into human flesh. But in Britain, since the 1900s, you know, the term operating theatre has expanded to just mean an operating room. And so just anybody now who goes under the knife is in an operating theatre in Britain. They just don't have 200 people crowded around watching them as if it's the Crucible. Either way, it's entirely possible you might visit our next entry once you leave the emergency room, or after seeing a high school production of Cats. In Britain, if we need to pick up a prescription, we will head to what is known as the chemist. And you'll note that the word chemist comes from the word alchemist. So if you're American, don't worry that we're, you know, curing people using base metals. We might start doing that if the testing kits run out. No, the chemist is the physical building that you in America might call a pharmacy, a word that was first attested in American English from 1833. I'm not entirely sure why I was so pleased about knowing that, especially since I forgot to remember that you also use the term drugstore in a broader sense. And drugstore, it's not the place where you get your weed. Well, that's not what I call it. It's the place where you might pick up, among other things, our next entry. We're talking mild pain medication, and in the United States they have the word acetaminophen, which is first attested from the early 1960s, meaning that pharmacy kicks its arse, and I just don't think either word's going to lose sleep over this. unless they have a headache, which if they do, they could take acetaminophen. And, when I first moved here in 2008, I particularly needed to take acetaminophen because of all of the British and American word differences, including this very one, because in Britain, we say paracetamol, or if you are of a particular regional persuasion, you might pronounce it paracetamol. Both pronunciations are accepted in scientific circles. I don't know that for a fact. What I do know for a fact is whether you call it acetaminophen, paracetamol or paracetamol, it can work wonders on mild pain, including headaches, bruising and scratch marks from an overzealous cat. And right now I'm going to take this opportunity to seal down the hatches of this quarantine bunker. They know it's my flat. While Lawrence from 7 months ago tells you all about another type of sealant, one that's good for those aforementioned cat scratches. Now, looking back, I must have discovered all of the health-related word differences very early on in my time in the United States, and it's no surprise because, well, I was in and out of hospital many times during that period. Don't ask. No, really, don't ask. I have an annoying habit of exaggerating things. But, despite my brushes with the medical room in those early days, nothing could quite prepare me for my mother-in-law's reaction to the question, do you have any plasters in the house? Yeah, all of the walls are plastered. I mean, she must have thought that I had genuine concerns about the structural integrity of the house. I did, as it happens, but that's another story for another time. No, I explained. Plasters, to stop my arm from bleeding off. The penny dropped at that moment. Aha, what you're looking for is called a Band-Aid. So this is a fictitious version of my mother-in-law in which she has creepy eyes. Now, at this point, the linguistic divide could have been widened severely had I referenced the 1984 supergroup led by Bob Geldof. But I didn't. I just nodded. In Britain, what both countries use to refer to that type of treatment that involves incision, we also use it to refer to the doctor's physical building, i.e. his or her surgery. And, it's weird double meanings like this that make me feel sorry for people learning English for the first time, or for Judi Dench learning her lines. In the US, they're sensible, they just refer to it as a doctor's office, although to me that's this. Or to bring Australia into this, the doctor's room, which again is actually this. Either way, once you end up in this building, whether it's small like everything else in England or bigger on the inside, you may feel a little prick. And while that sounds like medical malpractice, I'm talking about this. So right after moving to America, flu season was fast approaching and everyone was telling me, you need to get your shot. And I was elated because to me, a shot is exactly what you would have at happy hour right after a matinee performance of liver removal. But it turns out that a shot involves a hypodermic needle. Now, I do remember from my student days injecting absinthe into my eyeballs. That didn't happen. But this was medically recommended to prevent me from catching the flu, or as we say in Britain, the flu. What we don't say in Britain, at least in this sense, is the word shot. Instead, we use the word jab. And the word jab is first attested in British English from 1914, when it started out as a sort of punchy word to stick on the newspaper headlines, which I can see being very beneficial 4 years later when Spanish flu broke out. But really, jab was late to the game because the word shot, which is only one letter more, I mean, come on, newspapers, was first attested in American English from 1904, and that just happened to coincide with the introduction of the first manufacturing facility in the United States that was specifically designed to manufacture syringes and needles. Aren't they the same thing? We need to do better with the teleprompter in the future, I think. Is it sealed, by the way? Okay, good. That's it for this episode. Thank you very much for joining me here in my apartment. Let me know in the comments below your experiences of dealing with terminology, medically or otherwise, in Britain and or America. And let me know if you're going stir crazy in your shed. To get notifications and for me to prove that I'm still alive throughout all of this, follow me on Twitter, where I will be posting on a daily basis. You can do so at Lost in the Pond US. And of course, you can always just subscribe to this channel. That way my videos don't get lost in the pond or in the shuffle of coronavirus hashtags. And right now it's very important, particularly because I need to revitalize the integrity of this building, that we get support for this channel. And that includes the technology, the research that we do, and just new clothes. And if you would like to support the channel, you can do so at patreon.com/lostinthepond. Don't forget, anybody that does so will get access to my secret live stream. So go there right now. You won't regret it. And even if you do, you can tell your friends. Thank you, and I will see you soon. Bye. Thank you for watching this episode of Lost in the Pond. Don't forget to hit my stupid little face to subscribe, and please share this video with the world. Hit me up on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook, and if you would like to support this channel, please do so at patreon.com/lostinthepond.